by any measure, a group who's got their start winning a talent show, then signing a record deal, and as a family, and having a decent little run of success, then breaking up in the middle of the 70s, then getting back together just as the 70s turned into the 80s to have one last run of success as a dance outfit. That's the 70s in a nutshell. What's going on, everybody? You're right on time for another Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. Another ride on the Groove Line with your host, Chris Stevens. That's who I am. That's the name of the show, On the Groove Line. Hopefully, you all are doing well out there. It is Friday. We've made it to the weekend, and I am happy to say that this concludes 1980 week. There's probably going to be more stuff coming from 1980 in the lifetime of this channel, but for some strange reason, everything this week just had 1980 stamped on it as I was putting together the week. Just how it worked out. And today we are going to talk about a single song from 1980. We talked about one earlier this week, Monday, a Mystery Achievement by the Pretenders. And of course, we did a Tina Marie, an album review of Irons in the Fire. But as I teased last time, this is a song that came out from a family band who had to change their name. Well, it didn't have to, but just change their name after a run as the first family of soul. Dead giveaway, right? No, it's not the Jacksons. It's the Burke family from Chicago. We're talking Clarence Jr. We're talking Kenny Burke, Dennis, James, QB, and Alohi. And everybody thinks, I hope I'm saying her name right. If I'm saying her name wrong, I'm so sorry because I've never heard her name pronounced before. But she's the one that's actually singing on Ooh Child, by the way. Everybody thinks that's one of the boys. No, that's the sister that's singing on Ooh Child. And that might remind you, just for this is a deep voiced woman stand count. I mean, as you can hear, ain't no baritone in my baritone. Ain't no baritone in my tone. So me and a woman, we both can't sound like certified public accountants. One of us has to have some bass in our voice. So a woman with a little bass in her voice, a little rumble in the throat, don't bother me none at all. Just saying. But anyway, so the Burke family had a nice run during the late 60s and early 70s of singles and albums. Broke up by 1976, but Clarence Jr. went to Island Records in 1978 and with another producer started a group called the Invisible Man's Band, but he didn't feel comfortable without having his family with him. So Kenny, James, and Dennis came along, and but there was a caveat. They did not want their name, they didn't want the Burke family name or themselves on the cover, which is why you have this lovely little, I don't know if that's sanitary to have your bare bottom on the floor like that. Maybe they cleaned the bathroom floor up or the disco floor up by the time this young lady got down for the pose. But yes, this is the Invisible Man Band's self-titled debut. Came out in the early stages of 1980. And the song we're talking about, took me a while to get there, is An All Night Thing. And once again, certain people, Steve Dahl and his goons, declared disco dead on July 12, 1979. But disco went all the way into all the way into 1980 at the very least. And this is another one of those last gasp disco records. Even though there's more of a funk element to it, it's still a disco record. All Night Thing is absolutely a disco record. You know, you got your four on the floor, you have your strings, and then you have your bass. Kenny Burke is killing that bass, by the way. Kenny Burke was quite session and studio bassist outside of what he was doing with his family and his own solo records, which we'll probably get into in this channel later on down the line. But All Night Thing is exactly what its title implies. It is a all-night dance floor anthem. Like Clarence Jr. is singing lead on this, you know, looking over there to get started. And everybody's just waiting to get started on the dance floor. And it's going to be an all-night thing. Just getting on the dance floor, getting busy, getting down. Like, it's one of those deep cut records that's not a deep cut. Like, if you were around back in those days, you know, you'll have somebody of a certain age that's like, let's see, if this record came out first half of 1980, late 79, early 80, if you were partying, then you had to be probably, I mean, if we're talking like high school age to, you know, college age, then you probably had to be born like 65, 64 at the very latest. And then college years and adult years, anything after that. Like kids, you know, they had those after hours clubs where anybody 18 and up can get in. So anybody from like 1961, 1962 could get in and hear All Night Thing. People in that age range, you ask them about Invisible Man Band All Night Thing, they're gonna say, "Let's go to the disco." Like they'll tell you about that song. I mean, so it's not a deep cut, but if you're like a Dusty Grooves connoisseur that's younger and you're trying to understand what the temperature was like of that era, the early days of post disco, All Night Thing is one of those records you absolutely need to listen to, because it says if anything, it says that disco was still very much alive and well. Dance music is still alive and well. Some hateful rock fans might have said disco sucks, burn the records in the park and all of that crap, but the dance floor music was still kicking. It just took on a different direction by the time 1981 rolls around. But by 1980, I mean, I guess you probably say the fall of 1980, because that's when Zapp and Roger, just changed everything with More Bounce to the House. But before you get to that, you still have disco records. You still have traditional disco records. We talked about one here on this channel, Is It In by Jimmy Bo Horn. I mean, 1980, people were still getting down to the disco. Make no mistake about it. And All Night Thing is just another one of those songs that just does not stop. I don't care if you hear it once, you want to hear it twice. You want to hear it the third time, then the fourth time. Then by the time you've looked up, you listen to this thing for an hour straight and you're still not tired of it. It's just one of those records from back in the day that DJs probably made a killing off of, because you could just mix that thing. Ooh, child, it's a hot. And the funny part is, I didn't realize that ad lib until I learned as an adult that the Invisible Man's Band were the Five Stairstep brothers. Listening to that, it was like, oh yeah, they just shouted out their sister on wax in the ad lib. Like that is sensational. Like when it finally dawned on me, it was like, oh, okay, all right. But yeah, All Night Thing, just one of those records that just didn't give any clues to the quote unquote death of disco. And as it's always been said, disco just changed its name. I mean, it eventually became house, EDM, techno, high energy, all of that stuff. And it's a song that, again, it is true to its name. If you listen to it, it'll be an all night thing, because the instrumentation is elite. The vocal part, Clarence Jr. just, laying down the game. You look so fine and I want your number in my book. Wanna take you home with me and get it on all night long. Like that's what people, again, late 70s, throughout the 70s and into the early 80s, before the HIV and AIDS epidemic really touched off, people were getting it cracking. Make no mistake about it. So you got, that free love thing, that sexual revolution, that people love to party, have fun, body to body type deal. It was still going on in 1980. Still was. So, I mean, you get that. I mean, it's pretty plain when a dude says that to a girl, like, you look good. I'm trying to get your number. And then I want to take you home, and then we can do all sorts of dance moves horizontally without these leisure suits and stuff on. That type of deal. So All Night Thing, and that was a great record. It ended the year in 1980, number 9 on the well, actually, that was its peak performance on the charts. Number 9 on the Black music charts. Back then, it was the Black music charts back then. Same as I Need Your Love. So I Need Your Love and All Night Thing, they both hit number 9 at different points in 1980 on the Black music charts. It just missed the top 40 though. It topped out at number 45 on the pop charts. But by any measure, a group who's got their start winning a talent show, then signing a record deal, and as a family, and having a decent little run of success, then breaking up in the middle of the 70s, then getting back together just as the 70s turned into the 80s to have one last run of success as a dance outfit. That's the 70s in a nutshell. The time between 1970 and 1980 is just like one of those periods in music that just shocks you. Because when you think about how the Motown sound was still very much prevalent by the time 1970 comes around, you got these 3-minute songs, you got your first verse, you got your second verse, you may have a bridge, you may have a little chorus, and then it's time to go home. Then, of course, by 1980, you got these long grooves, you got instrumentalists in different stripes doing their thing for 3 and 4 minutes at a time before or after anybody has said a word or anybody says a word again on the record. So it's crazy. Like the Five Stairsteps started in 1970 with their biggest hit, Ooh Child. And then by 1980, they're the Invisible Man Band. They don't even want to be recognized on their records. And they got this one last disco hit that people still remember 45 years later. 10 years or something, ain't it? But ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this edition of On the Groove Line. Greatly appreciate y'all for watching and listening. As always, contact information will be in the description below. What are your thoughts on All Night Thing by Invisible Man's Band? What are your thoughts on the Five Stairsteps, the Burke family, the First Family of Soul? Let us know what you think in the comments. So thank you guys for riding with me. As always, have a great weekend. And until the next time we ride, may you find the groove, or may the groove find you.